Hello and welcome to another episode of Dental Lab Insights. Now I'm very happy to say I have Sasha de Avenessian here with me, who's the CEO and founder of Harvest Dental Products. Sasha, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to
Great
see
to
you.
be here.
Could you just start off by telling me a little bit about Harvest Dental Products and what you do?
Sure. I'm actually a dental lab kid. I was actually born in the dental lab industry. My dad was a lab owner, and he started the lab in '74, the year I was born. So I grew up in the laboratory. It was my favorite place to be. When my friends went to the park, I wanted to go to the lab with Dad. And at an early young age, I fell in love with the industry. I mean, at 12 years old, I was addicted to LMT magazine. I would steal them and take them home, and my mom would get upset because I'd have these big, tabloid-sized magazines all over the house. But I collected them like I collected baseball cards. And one of my, prized possessions is my LMT collection. I have every LMT from 1985. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I always knew that I was going to be in the industry. Early on, my dad was a smile maker. That's what he told me he did, and so that's what I would tell my friends he did.
Yes, yeah.
And so I knew that that part of purpose, of being in a position to influence confidence, and to be in a sense, kind of part of God's solution to the human smile was exciting for me. And so,
yes, yeah. And what's his company called? Harvest Dental?
That was mine. His company. So my father's lab was Premier Dental Ceramics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a full service Crown and British laboratory. And so, my dream, I because I grew up in the lab, my dream was actually to not work in the lab per se, but to serve the lab, because
Right.
I had developed a sense of empathy for the laboratory because I grew up in it. I
Yeah.
saw the grind. I saw how difficult it was. I saw how a lot of times my dad had to fight for the respect that he deserved from the dentist. My dream was to start a dental lab products company, and I wanted to be an emotional brand.
Right. Yes.
And so my dream was to basically be the Mont Blanc of dental lab products. That was the dream of Harvest.
Yeah, fantastic. And so you must spend a lot of time now, I guess, not just in your father's lab, but out there in the marketplace, kind of understanding what other labs are talking about. What are the kind of main issues that you're seeing at the moment?
In dental lab circles, I think there's a lot of talk about loyalty, and most specifically the lack thereof. Laboratories are doing everything they can to keep the doctor happy. They create a good crown, good customer service, a good price, and all the while not trying not to take it too hard on the chin.
Right.
Business is tough. There's pressures everywhere, and they keep their eye on the customer. The problem is that all of a sudden the wind blows, and the next thing you know, they're gone.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of, I think, fear that has crept in. And you hear a lot of talk on and around this race to the bottom.
Right.
And to me, the race to the bottom is just a territory. Your competitor will exist where your value does not.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And if price is your only differentiator, it will be your only differentiator.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I know you're very big on kind of branding and how companies can kind of help fill that gap. I'm interested to get your take on kind of what labs can do now to sort of fill that gap.
An intriguing statistic is that 75% of the customers that we lose would actually deem themselves satisfied with our product, with our service, and with our price.
Right, yeah.
And so the truth is that our customers are with us because we're good enough.
Yeah.
The problem is we're not sticky enough.
Right.
And so the reality is that, and what that tells us is that crowns aren't sticky.
Yeah.
Human emotions are. A laboratory's goal is not to produce a good crown, good service, and a good price. Their objective is to be missed.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I mean, how how that makes a lot of sense as well, you know, because it's down, I guess, comes down to sort of personal brand and the company's brand and stuff. But how do you then define that? How do you help labs kind of understand that and deploy that, if you like?
Sure. So you know, we have a methodology for brand differentiation, and it starts with human attributes. And branding is an introspective process. And it starts with self-awareness.
Yeah.
Understanding the human attributes as the visionary. Understanding the human attributes that I'm attracted to.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if I'm attracted to them, that means that's who I am.
Right.
Reverse engineering those attributes and then deploying them to the world.
Yes.
Because those attributes are who I am, they become authentic representations of myself, which is where true power lives with regards to making an impression.
Yeah. So you think that, you know, the process then is to sort of understand the people in the lab and the owner perhaps, and to then define the brand from who the people are? Is that what?
Well, it starts with the visionary. Right? I'm the visionary of Harvest Dental, therefore Harvest Dental carries forward my human attributes.
Right. Yeah.
And so what you know, lab owners need to do is they need to stop outsourcing their vision and hiring a marketing company and saying, hey, get me business. What they need to do is they need to understand why they're attracted to the people that they're attracted to, and why they're attracted to the products that they're attracted to, and why they're attracted to the places that they're attracted to.
Yes.
And they need to understand those attributes, call them out, and then spend the time reverse engineering those attributes and creating creative you know, executions of representing those attributes to the doctor.
How do you actually go about this process then of understanding, you know, your attributes and how you should go out to the market?
Brand differentiation starts with 3 processes.
Right.
The first is understanding conventional behavior.
Right.
Market conventions are the biases that we live with. These are the way things are supposed to be. In other words, if you look at every human communication touch point that a laboratory interfaces with its doctor, if you study what your competitors are doing within those human communication touch points, and if you are the same, the first thing you need to do is change.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's the first step of brand differentiation.
Yeah.
In order to be different, you can't be the same.
Yes. Yeah.
That becomes the catalyst from which a brand differentiates against. We have to uncover conventional behavior and conventional mindsets, and it really has to do with value recognition. If a product does what it's supposed to do, there's no value. Because value is recognized.
Right. Yes.
And
so above and beyond what.
What happens is there becomes a blindness to the value proposition because it's expected. And so you know, when we understand that, you know, we as people are brands, right?
Yes.
We have to utilize those conventions to come in and create what I would call a disruption.
Yes.
A value disruption, which is ultimately a behavioral innovation.
Right. And this could be things, I guess, like what, speed, or is the question of understanding, you know, how much time that you could save the dentist, or, you know, what is it, those sorts of areas?
To me, branding is about attributes.
Right.
It's about building an emotional connection with your customer. And a perfect example would be if I'm attracted to grateful people, then that means that gratitude should be an active and living attribute in my life.
Right.
And if it is, I need the doctor to know that about me.
Right.
Because he doesn't.
Yes.
So how do I communicate the fact that I, Sasha, am a grateful person.
Yes.
Because gratitude, along with humility, are the two most attractive human attributes.
Yes.
And so I want my doctor to know that about me, because if he doesn't know that about me, then the only thing he knows about me is that I make his crowns.
Yeah, yeah.
And so how do we do that? Well, one way to do it would be, let's say you have a long-standing doctor or a new account. It really doesn't matter. But you would get the case. The doctor would contact the lab. You would put the case through case planning. Prior to invoicing, you would go to your AR clerk and you would say, hey, Betty, before we send this invoice to Dr. Johnson, I'd like you to just come in and put it on my desk, please.
Right.
Because disruption is about meeting the doctor at the intersection of clarity and surprise.
Right.
Clarity because they learned something new about you, and surprise because what they learned exceeded their expectation.
Right, right.
And so you would call the doc and you would say to him, hey, yesterday I was actually thinking about you, and I just want you to know that that I appreciate the relationship that we have.
Yeah.
Or if it was a new customer, hey doc, I just want you to know that I really do appreciate you, giving me the opportunity to serve you.
Yes.
Now, the key to this whole thing is that it has to be spontaneous and it has to be a surprise.
Yes.
The attribute of generosity has attachments.
Yes.
The authenticity of it,
Yes.
right? Number one, it has to cost you something.
Yeah, yeah,
Number two, you didn't have to do it.
yeah.
And so, you have to create those catalysts. And so the crown has to be delivered already.
Yeah, yeah.
The invoice, maybe it doesn't even go to the desk. Maybe it goes directly to the doctor. When it drops, and then you call him.
Right.
Why? Because you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
You didn't have to do it. You could have just let it ride.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You stopped, you turned around, you sat down, you stopped what you were doing, you made the call, and then you're going to take the money back. Because what you're going to say is, if it's okay, I'd like to put this one on the house.
Yeah.
You should have gotten an invoice.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and void that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Differentiation doesn't necessarily happen at that moment. True brand differentiation will happen the moment he hangs up the phone and he walks back for the 3 seconds. He walks back to doing what he was doing before.
Yes, yeah.
Thinking about what you just did.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And he'll remember it.
And he'll remember it.
Yeah.
And so that marketing spend, you can call it, is maybe $300.
Yes, yeah.
But the laboratory just gained $300,000 in equity. Because equity is defined by the level of emotional loyalty you carry with the doctor.
Sasha, that has been really interesting, looking at how to market yourself from a very kind of different perspective. So thank you very much for your time. It's been great to meet you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming
Pleasure
in.
to meet you too.
Stay tuned for another episode of Dental Lab Insights.